We're coming at you once again from our beautiful studios at First Star Logistics. You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And we're talking Bengals, Bears. Cincinnati Bengals travel to Chicago. Bears home opener. Bengals experienced the crowd advantage in their home opener. The Minnesota Vikings had some trouble with crowd noise. I mean, this is the first time they dealt with crowd noise in over 2 years. Cincinnati Bengals will go on the road and deal with crowd noise for the first time up there in Chicago, and that is a rabid fan base. Silent snap count, all those things you have to consider when you're on the road and you don't have to deal with at home are going to be in play against the Bears up there in Chicago. You know, when I think about this football game, the Joe show was obvious. Joe Mixon, he didn't rush for a whole lot of yards in the first half, and Joe Burrow had kind of modest numbers until 50-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase. It gave Joe Burrow 136 yards passing at the half, gave him 2 touchdowns, gave him a quarterback rating of over 130. And what it also did, it said defensively, boy, we may have to unload the box a little bit. We may have to give a little bit more help to our cover guys. You know, we can't really put as many people between the tackles to stop Joe Mixon as we've been doing because they hit us. They made us pay with Jamar Chase, 50-yard touchdown. That was like with 42 seconds to go in the half. So it was one of the last things that Mike Zimmer saw before he went in at halftime. I'm sure a big adjustment they made was make sure that we're good enough on the perimeter to help. My cornerback can't hold up in man coverage necessarily. May have to help a little bit. Joe Burrow went off. I mean, Joe finished the game strongly, but Joe Mixon went off in the second half. I mean, that's when he really started lugging the pigskin for big plays. And his longest run was 19 yards, so he kept grinding for significant yardage and took advantage of the fact that they had to play it a little bit more balanced defensively because of that big play. And when you look at this football game, that's what the Rams did to the Chicago Bears defense is they hammered them with big plays. They had a 67-yard touchdown pass. They had another touchdown pass close to 50 yards. So the big play turned out to be a big factor in the Bears' loss to the Rams, and it turned out to be a big plus in the Cincinnati Bengals' victory over the Vikings. So I think the big play is going to be a factor in this football game. I thought a big key to the football game was the Bengals controlling Dalvin Cook. They ran him 20 times. They tried to establish him. He got 61 yards, 3.1 yards per rush. He got 17 of them on one carry. So the Bengals did a good job of containing Dalvin Cook and making the Minnesota Vikings one-dimensional. And then they got Joe Mixon off and running. Joe Mixon, 29 carries, most in the NFL, 127 rushing yards, most in the NFL. That's a good start. 150 scrimmage yards when you factor in his receptions, 4th in the National Football League. Now you're going in this game, number 1 rusher in the NFL against the number 2 rusher in the NFL, David Montgomery. 16 carries, 108 yards. 108 yards, the most, second most in the NFL. He did have a 41-yard carry where he got out of there, and he picked up 41 yards, and the Bengals are going to have to control and contain that. They can't allow him any explosives on the ground. But David Montgomery, Mount Healthy's own, and very proud, David Montgomery is a fine running back for the Chicago Bears. So in my mind, it's the same thing. Make it one-dimensional. You know, make Andy Dalton throw the football because he has to, not because he wants to. You can control Montgomery, make it one-dimensional. And then on the flip side of it, the Joe and Joe show become equal components. They basically complement each other. They feed off each other. I think that's going to be a good way to go. You know, it's interesting. First down success usually leads to third down success. The Bengals first down, they averaged 6.72 yards per play against the Vikings, 7th best in the NFL last week. But they only converted 21.4% on third down. That's 30th in the NFL, 30 out of 32 teams. And that's a tribute to Mike Zimmer and Paul Guenther, what they do with their third down pressure packages. It's pure guesswork. They'll load the line of scrimmage, and you'll think, all right, well, they got 7 or 8 guys here. I have to account for all of them. And then they'll only rush 3 and drop them all out into coverage. You have all these max protect, a 5 linemen, a tight end, and a running back, 7 guys blocking 3. And on the flip side, you have 2 guys in a route covered by 7. So they make you so frustrated it becomes a guessing game. And then if you don't put enough blockers in there, they're going to have a free runner to the quarterback. They are magnificent on third down. And the Bengals really struggled on third down against the Minnesota Vikings. The Chicago Bears, offensively, only 3.24 yards per play on first down, dead last in the NFL. On defense, they gave up 10.43 yards per play on first down, dead last in the NFL. First down could be a big down in this football game, but the Bengals also have to execute better than they did on third down. There's no question about it. And the big plays, we talked about the Chicago Bears giving up some big plays in the secondary because of assignment errors and mistakes. The Bengals basically won the football game because of big plays. 50-yard touchdown pass to Chase, 32-yard pass to C.J. Uzomah that led to the game-winning field goal in overtime. Big plays won the game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Big plays lost the game for the Chicago Bears. So big plays are going to be a big factor in this football game as well. That's just a few things to chew on as you think about the Chicago Bears and the Cincinnati Bengals, but I'm going to leave you with this one. As a former lineman, the most significant matchup in this game that I'm going to be looking at, who's going to play left tackle for the Chicago Bears? I mean, they've got injury problems. They've got issues over there at the left tackle position. Jason Peters, who they signed, has got a quad injury. He can't go. Larry Boren, who they drafted to play the tackle position, he's got an ankle injury. He can't go. I mean, they're in trouble at the left tackle position. Hendrickson, you got to eat. If they're struggling out there at left tackle, you have to make them pay. Get off the football, then make them make an adjustment. Have a tight end over there to help that tackle, slow block with him, have a back chip out of the backfield before he releases in his route. Make yourself a force, make yourself a factor that is going to whip on that left tackle so severely, they're going to have to adjust their game plan in order to be able to block you. If the Bengals can knock off the Bears on the road up by the lake and go 2-0 against the NFC North, there'll be a lot of happy players, coaches, and organizational people on that charter flight home from Chicago to Cincinnati, including this guy.
Hi, Dave Lapham here. Have you heard about In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics? Catch new episodes from the world of sports and broadcasting. Search for In the Trenches with Dave Lapham on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.